For example, in Congress, okay, we don't have term limits in America. New guy comes out, he says, I'm going to be a congressman, and I'm going to make some change. And he goes in. Oh, shit. That guy just scared the crap out of me. I don't care. I'm going to stand up to him and her. Nancy doesn't scare me. Chuck doesn't scare me. McConnell doesn't scare me. Oh, my God, I just lost and I didn't get reelected. Hey, I'm so sorry.
Well,
you know,
but again, that can happen, and the opposite can happen.
It does happen, though. It's not about it can happen. It does happen.
Okay, let's say it does happen.
The establishment does do that and control it. So all I'm saying is, where I'm going with this is the following. Do some people in the establishment, okay?
I don't like this use of the word the establishment.
Well, I'll use it. You can use a different word for it. I'll use it. Do some people who are the establishments who are using their tenure for being around and they know where the body's buried, can they sometimes make some decisions that they think is the right decision that end up destroying what they once built or what they once helped grow? Can they negatively impact a society, a country, a company?
Before I answer that, I want to ask you a question.
Please.
Do you think your establishment...
Patrick Bet-David brought on Douglas Murray onto the PBD podcast on the Valuetainment YouTube channel, and they had a very heated debate about Douglas Murray being part of the establishment. But Douglas even switched it around on PBD and said, well, if I'm establishment, then you're part of the elite establishment too. And then Patrick Bet-David was forced to, he backed him into a corner, was forced to defend himself, and things got very heated between Patrick Bet-David and Douglas Murray here on the PBD podcast and the Valuetainment YouTube channel. Let's get into this clip from the PBD podcast about Patrick Bet-David having to defend himself, possibly being part of the elite establishment that he was accusing Douglas Murray of being a part of.
Want to work as hard as the others, but they had been around so much and they knew the dead bodies everywhere that they knew how to control some people to scare the shit out of them, to say, hey, man, if you talk about that to anybody, you're going to hurt me. And because of that, I'm going to make sure you XYZ said about you. And the establishment of executives in a company, much smaller, have a lot of control for that company to expand. So you'll see a lot of big companies getting smaller because of the establishment C-suites at the top who have been around for 30 years that no longer want the startups to grow. They no longer want to hear about the shit about dreams and what if one day and imagine one day and I want to move up the corporate ladder. I want to one day be the CTO, the CEO. Oh, be quiet already, dude. Let me just freaking go golf 3 days a week. That is the establishment of a company filled with executives that can prevent this company from growing. This is why new companies come out, startups, and they destroy the establishment because the established C-suite executives. That's what I mean as the establishment in a smaller scale.
But that C-suite establishment,
been around.
There are many ways to look at it, but there are at least two ways to see it, which is one, maybe that C-suite establishment does exist, and it does in lots of companies. It can, and also maybe they're very vulnerable. And I can think of lots of cases where the people who, as you say, are basically checked out are very vulnerable. They may know where
the bodies are buried,
the bodies buried, and so on. But that doesn't protect you for all time. Or they're at the top of the C-suite in their company, but then the whole company is eaten by somebody else who comes along. I mean, you must have seen that plenty of times as well.
Of course, but that happens because of the establishment. So that's the point I'm trying to make to you is, for example, in Congress, okay, we don't have term limits in America. New guy comes out, he says, I'm going to be a congressman, and I'm going to make some change. And he goes in. Oh, shit. That guy just scared the crap out of me. I don't care. I'm going to stand up to him and her. Nancy doesn't scare me. Chuck doesn't scare me. McConnell doesn't scare me. Oh, my God, I just lost and I didn't get reelected. Hey, I'm so sorry.
Well, but again, that can happen, and the opposite can happen.
It does happen, though. It's not about it can happen. It does happen.
Let's say it does happen.
Does do that and control it. So all I'm saying is, where I'm going with this is the following. Do some people in the establishment, okay?
I don't like this use of the word the establishment.
Well, I'll use it. You can use a different word for it. I'll use it. Do some people who are the establishments who are using their tenure for being around and they know where the body's buried, can they sometimes make some decisions that they think is the right decision that end up destroying what they once built or what they once helped grow? Can they negatively impact a society, a country, a company?
Before I answer that, I want to ask you a question.
Please.
Do you think your establishment...
I don't think I'm establishment. I'll explain to you why I don't think I'm establishment. I'll give you my who I was. my background.
I know your background. I'm just saying. I'm thinking, but where you are now, why aren't you establishment?
I'm not at all part of the establishment. I don't take money from anybody.
But you
I don't take sponsorship.
Sure. Okay.
I don't have to. Now, hear me out. Let me tell you this. So I got a call from a guy. So, and I won't give the name, but you know who this guy is. Maybe you would know who this guy is. In the game of agents, managers, representatives, he's at the top. Okay. So, hey, listen.
By the way, what Patrick Bet David was saying right there about this stuff actually happening, where people get bribed, people get blackmailed, worse things happening, like actual assassination attempts. We literally just saw today, as of recording this video right now, Donald Trump just had a second assassination attempt on him, or a reported second assassination attempt. It's not 100% confirmed that it was an attempt on Trump's life. Pretty sure it was, though, as reported by CNN and by other woke media outlets, as well as right-wing media outlets. So that's number one. You don't follow the establishment's way. They will literally just send people to kill you, possibly, allegedly, obviously. But also with blackmail, we saw the Epstein list. There's a ton of people out there who probably knew exactly who was on that list. They probably were recorded being on the island. They probably have pictures taken of them. And hey, you don't do what I say, guess what? This gets exposed. This gets put out there. These emails get sent to your family, whatever, So of course that stuff happens. We see it exposed all the time, over and over again. So what Patrick Bet David was saying there to Douglas Murray is 100% true. And there's just no arguing it. And that's why he didn't really argue it much.
If there is ever an interest in wanting to have us represent in the sale or in the partnership of the podcast being with XYZ company to get 100 million here, a couple 100 million here, whatever it is, you got to kind of be careful to not have those types of guests on anymore. I got this call. I'm just telling you, I got this call.
Sure. Okay.
Here's how the call went. I said, here's the difference. I'm a self-made guy. I made my own money. I came up, had a 1.8 GPA. I don't have a 4-year. I don't have a 2-year. I'm an Army guy. I love numbers. I'm very good with numbers, and I love people. I got into financial services. Somehow, some way, in the insurance industry, they couldn't stand me because I was not a golfer. I'm an insurance industry. I've golfed 18 holes in my life, maybe 5 times. I can't stand golf. I'm not that guy.
We are in utter agreement.
Okay, I'm not that guy. I don't have the patience for golf. So I will caddy for you and we can have a nice cigar, but I'm not going to sit there and golf with you. That's not me. So nothing about my profile of being in the financial industry was the ideal guy. Then there is disruption. Then we have market share. Then we grow. Now we have enemies. Behind closed doors, I'm losing insurance carriers. I'm losing contracts. They're playing games. The guys that have been around for 30 years who have a nice, sweet little business don't like a guy like me coming in. They're making my life a living hell, and I'm still not caving at them. And then eventually we sold the business. And then I came to start my own company now. We're media, consulting, all the stuff that we're doing. Yesterday we had an event, Palm Beach Convention Center. We had nearly 6,000 people in the room. We had Dwayne The Rock.
If you enjoy content like this, then make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out a ton. Let's get back to the video.
Johnson and people showing up from 100 plus countries, executives, founders, private equity guys, VCs, and they're coming in and we're not sitting there saying, hey, I owe this guy, better do this or else that guy, this guy. I don't do well with that. So all I'm saying is you asked me the question, I'm giving you the establishment side. I sit there and I think about who the hell, even with the people that have the money, the only way this could be happening is because somebody's allowing for this to happen. Somebody at the top has to be allowing for this to happen because they think it may be a good idea or there's a deceptive idea, reasoning behind it.
Okay, let me, first of all, to say again, when it comes to your own example, I can imagine somebody, as with me, accusing you of being part of an establishment.
An establishment.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Not
the establishment, because what I'm saying is I don't think that there is the establishment.
I think there is
in a country. I think there are establishments.
No, but I think,
and I know, by the way, what people say about it is, oh my God, he's covering up for the establishment. I just don't. As I say, I think that there are different establishments and different gatekeepers in different industries, and you just described your experience with one. But it'd be perfectly possible if I was a guy who was down on his luck somewhere in the US and I wasn't on the ladder yet and I wasn't doing so well, I might well look at your CV and think, oh, he's part of the establishment. or an establishment, at least.
An establishment is different than the establishment.
No, but again, somebody could easily say, end up pushing you that way. My point is, I don't think that the parameters on this.
If you're trying to teach me English, you're right. If you go on the English route to say, here's the.
Well, I'm going the logic route too.
No, it's not the logic route. Where I'm going with it is different than the exact definition. Yes, this is our building. This is our establishment. It is. Yes, this is our restaurant. It's my establishment. Yes, this is our comedy club. It's our establishment. Yes.
I just hate when people play this game. It's just whenever people play this word game, this English language game, like what do words really mean? That's when you know somebody's losing an argument. Like that's when you know Patrick Bet-David is just in the right here. He just has the high ground in the situation. Whenever Douglas Murray is starting to say like, well, what is the definition of establishment? Like, you know, this room that we're in, it's technically an establishment, so therefore your establishment. It's like, no, man, come on. I hate when people pretend like the English language doesn't change. Like Destiny likes to do this a lot too, and he's considered one of the best debaters on the left wing, and he loves to do this. Where I did an interview, or not an interview, I did a video on him doing a debate with someone. I forgot who it was, but he was doing this with the word insurrection, talking about J6. And instead of actually discussing the topic of J6 and is it blown out of proportion, how bad it was, and was it actually, you know, an attempt to overthrow the government, he just started talking about the actual definition of the word insurrection. And I understand, you know, when you have to establish definitions of terms in order to have a conversation about these terms, I understand that. But it's very obvious when someone's trying to establish a definition versus just kind of change the subject and talk about semantics. In this situation with Patrick Bet-David, he's kind of running over Douglas Murray on this argument. And because Douglas Murray is part of the establishment, he's going to pretend like he doesn't know what establishment we're talking about. It's very obvious what the establishment means. The establishment is very obviously not this podcast studio that we're in. Even though it is technically an establishment, it is not the establishment that we're talking about. And everybody knows exactly what the establishment means. Douglas Murray definitely knows because he's part of it. But even if I went and talked to my grandma probably about the establishment, she would probably know what I'm talking about. Because everybody knows nowadays, because the internet is just, you know, the information is just out there all the time, everywhere. So we can all really know what's going on at all times.
But the establishment is behind closed doors.
No, but I'm saying you have power of some kind. If we're going to play that game, then you have power.
No, not at that level, though. You're talking about...
Well, of course, there are different levels of power and different levels of influence. Right. What I'm saying is that, and you gave the example of pre-revolution in Iran, pre-revolution in Russia, the Romanovs seemed to have all the power. They were the establishment. Turned out it didn't do them any good. You don't
think U.S. Kissinger, UK... MI6, CIA had a role in causing the Shah to fall and not send help when he needed it, when the revolution is happening, when Kissinger promised him he would? You don't think anybody played a role in causing the fall?
We can get into the. I mean, look, I think that you will probably know your history of '79 better than me, although you were also not. How old were you in '79?
I was born in '78, but I was born in here. I lived there 11 years.
Yeah. If you enjoy content like this, to make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out a ton. Let's get back to the video.
10.5 years, yeah.
And of course, in Iran is, of course, one of the countries in the world that, if you're British, is most flattering, because the Iranians still think the British run the world. It's very nice. Very nice for.
Well, you did for Iran for many years. You had British Petroleum, you had the oil, the whole contract.
Sure.
Yeah,
but there's always been a lot of belief in the sort of hidden hand of the power of the Brits. To this day, a lot of the Iranian press still suggests that America is only doing what Britain tells it to do. Again, deeply flattering to anyone who's British, but not true. I don't think that. What I'm trying to get to is, no, I do not think there is an establishment in the West that is capable of doing the things that you suggest.
Who is capable?
If you say something like this, if you say something like, I don't think there is an establishment in the West, you are part of the establishment. You are either, like, if you are in this space where there's a possibility of you going on the Patrick Bet-David podcast. If that's a possibility, like the random average Joe in a trailer park, he's not going on the PBD podcast, so maybe he doesn't know about the establishment. But if you are well-informed enough and in the space enough to be going on the PBD podcast, and you say that you go on there, you say, there's no such thing as the establishment, you are part of the establishment in my eyes. Like there's just no other, like everybody agrees. Everybody on our side agrees. People like the Young Turks, people like even, I would think that even if you ask someone like Bill Maher, does the establishment exist? He would probably say yes. He'd probably say that there's some people out there who have information on others, who blackmail people, who even, I mean, dude, JFK, just the JFK situation alone proves it. It just proves it alone. That one situation proves it.
Capable of causing mayhem. Which establishment is capable of causing mayhem in EU that is not just this whole thing happened accidentally?
Again, I just resist a sort of low resolution analysis of what is a very complex and potentially lethal problem. I would love it if it was the case, and I've had so many people who've tried to argue this to me since Strange Death came out. I'd love it if it was the case that there was a document from the establishment in the EU that explained its border policies in the last 60 years, let's say. There just isn't. I'll tell you what I think has happened. Very, very straightforward human explanation. The borders started to open after the Second World War. They invited in what were called guest workers, the Gastarbeiter program in Germany, mainly people from Turkey. They asked them in, invited them in, because there was a need to reconstruct Europe after the war. There was an assumption, Angela Merkel herself said this in 2010, there was an assumption that the migrants would go home after they'd arrived. There was every mistake possible was made, but, and in retrospect, we just say, how the hell did they make this mistake? I mean, who could have guessed that a Turkish man moving to Hamburg, Berlin, might want to meet a nice woman, and if he met a nice woman, might want to have nice children, and if he had nice children, might want a nice house and a nice salary and so on, and might not want to go back to Turkey. And that's one of the better countries that people enter Europe from. They didn't see it coming. They didn't predict that. And they slowly, as the decades went on, lost control. And every single time, as a famous politician in the UK said, every single time somebody inherited office, they saw all of these problems they were inheriting, and they could see the problem was getting worse and worse and worse. And they knew that they were less and less capable of dealing with it. And they knew that they should leave it for their successors because this was too difficult to deal with today. Now, tell me that when we come to the case of the US, something similar isn't happening. What has been the story of illegal migration?
It's not. That's not the same thing that's happening, because it's not as if they are leaving the situation to be solved by their successor. They are actively making the situation worse on purpose. Like, there's no possible way that you can be as incompetent as the Biden regime has, more specifically Kamala Harris has been, when it comes to the border situation. Like, there's no way that you can be incompetent enough to make it that much worse than it was before. It's purposeful. It has to be purposeful. So it's not like saying, oh yeah, the border situation has been, I mean, it has been bad, but it hasn't been this bad, right? It hasn't been a complete disaster for a long time, for that long. So it's not Kamala Harris coming in and saying, oh yeah, the border crisis has been really this bad since 1980, but I don't really want to solve it. I'd rather just wait for the next president to solve it. So I'm just going to leave it as it is. That's not what happened. It was, the border situation is bad. It's not all that bad. At least we didn't know it was all that bad until Biden took over. And now we just made it 100 times worse. And not only that, but we're not even allowed to call the people who are coming in and who are just chilling here illegally. We're not even allowed to call them illegal immigrants anymore. We have to call them, I don't even know what we call them. I don't know. I don't even know the definition that we're supposed to call them. But instead of trying to solve the problem, they just say, hey, let's just change the name of them from illegal immigrants so that we don't have any illegal immigrants here anymore. It's kind of like what they do with the crime issue. It's like, hey, instead of solving the crime problem, let's just raise the threshold for what constitutes a crime. So now people can steal $1,000 worth of groceries and they're not technically committing a crime. Therefore, crime is down. Isn't that genius? It's such a genius solution. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this debate here with Patrick Bet-David versus Douglas Murray about the existence of the establishment. If Patrick Bet-David is establishment himself, and the rest of the things that PBD and Douglas Murray discussed here on the Valuetainment YouTube channel and the PBD Podcast.